this video I am explaining the every single line of this hospital management system project C++ code. So in the description below you will find a link to the source code for this project. Feel free to explore the code. Hello everyone, welcome back to Sharp Skill, the place where we explore and learn together. In today's video, we are diving into the world of C++ programming with a hands-on tutorial on building a hospital management system. We will be covering everything from class structures to user input handling and more. Whether you are a beginner or looking to brush up on your C++ skill, this tutorial is tailored just for you. Before we jump in, do not forget to hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you never miss out on our upcoming tutorials. And if you found this video helpful, a thumbs up is always appreciated. Now let's get started. So first of all, in the code we have these headers. This line, first line, includes the input-output stream library IOStream. It provides functionality for basic console input and output operations using stdcin and stdcout. Then we have #include vector. This line includes standard template library stl header for vectors. Vectors are dynamic arrays in C++, providing a flexible and convenient way to work with arrays of varying sizes. Then we have #include string. This line includes the stl header for strings. It enables the use of C++ strings, allowing for string manipulation and storage. Then we have #include cc type. It includes the C standard library header for character handling, specifically cc type. It provides functions for character classification and conversion, and in this code it is likely used for case insensitive comparison. Then we have #include algorithm. This line includes the stl header for algorithm. It provides various algorithms that operates on ranges of elements. In this code it's used for the std transform function, which is likely used for transforming character, possibly for case insensitive comparison. So header files #include is a preprocessor directive that tells the compiler to include the content of the specified header file in the program, and each of these header IOStream vector string cc type algorithm provides a set of functionalities that are commonly used in C++ programming. And the headers are part of the C++ standard library, which is a collection of classes and functions that provide common programming solutions. And including these files allows the program to leverage pre-implemented functionalities for console and dynamic arrays, strings, characters, manipulation, and algorithms. And including these standard headers at the beginning of the program ensures that the necessary functionalities are available for use. They serve as building blocks for various operations within the program, making the code more concise and efficient. Then we have that class, doctor class. It defines a new C++ class named as doctor. A class is a user-defined data type that encapsulates data and functions that operates on that data. And public indicates that the following members, attributes, and methods will have public access. Public access means that these members can be accessed and modified from outside the class. Then we have std string name declares a member variable of type std string named name. This variable will store the name of the doctor. Then here comes this line. It declares a member variable of type std string named specialty, and this variable will store the specialty of the doctor. Then we have std string shift. It declares a member variable of type std string named shift. This variable will store the shift of the doctor, which can be either morning or night. Then we have this fourth line. It declares a member variable of type std vector, std string unavailable days, like that, and this variable will store a list of days when the doctor is unavailable. Then we have the last line of this class, and it defines the constructor of the doctor class. Constructor is a special member function called when an object of the class is created. It takes parameters like n, here s, sh, and to initialize the member variables like n, like name, specialty, shift, unavailable days. Parameters are passed by reference. To avoid unnecessary copying of data, the initializer list name, specialty, shift, unavailable days initialize the member variable with the provided values. The constructor allows creating a doctor object with specified attributes during instantiation. It marks the end of the doctor class definition. The doctor class represents a doctor in a hospital management system, storing information, name, specialty, shift, list of unavailable days, and the constructor allows initializing these attributes when a doctor object is created. Then we have the next class patient, and its explanation is like same as I have already explained for the doctor class. So it will store name, patient age, its gender, and like if it is admitted, if it is admitted, then its ward number, and these are its parameters. Then we have int reserved. It declares a member variable of type int and reserved. This variable will store the number of beds in the ward that are currently reserved or occupied. Then we have this line. It defines the constructor of the ward class. The constructor is called when an object of the class is created. It takes a parameter t to initialize the total attribute and sets reserved to 0. This constructor allows creating a ward object with the specified total number of beds. Then we have this function. It defines a member function named assign patient. This function is responsible for updating the count of reserved bed when a patient is assigned to the ward. It increments the reserved variable by 1. Then we have this function. It defines a member function named discharge patient. This function is responsible for updating the count of reserved beds when a patient is discharged from the ward. It checks there are reserved beds reserved greater 0 before decrementing the reserved variable by 1. Then we have this function. It defines a member function named gets free ward, and this function returns the number of free beds in the ward not currently reserved or occupied. The const qualifier indicates that this function does not modify the object's state. So in summary, the ward class represents the hospital ward with information about the total number of beds, the number of reserved beds, and functions to update and retrieve this information. This class is designed to be a part of hospital management system, working in conjunction with other classes such as doctor and patient. And this class named as appointment, and it will store the data of patient, then doctor. This is the constructor of the hospital class. It is called automatically when an instance of the hospital class is created. The purpose of this constructor is to initialize the wards vector with an example ward. It uses this line to add a ward object with a total capacity of 10 to the wards vector. This line essentially sets up the initial state of the hospital with an example ward. Then here comes register doctor function. This function allows the registration of a new doctor in the hospital. It takes a constant reference to a doctor object as a parameter. Then inside the function, this line is used to add the provided doctor to the doctor. This function effectively adds a new doctor to the list of registered doctor in the hospital. Then we have this register patient. It is similar to the register doctor function. This function allows the registration of a new patient in the hospital, and it takes a constant reference to a patient object as a parameter. And inside the function, this line is used to add the provided patient to the patient's vector. This function adds a new patient to the list of registered patients in the hospital. Then we have the schedule appointment function. This function is responsible for scheduling a new appointment between a patient and a doctor on a specified date. It takes 3 parameters: constant patient, a constant reference to a patient object representing the patient involving in the appointment. Then constant doctor, a constant reference to a doctor object representing the doctor involved in the appointment. Then the last, a constant reference to a string representing the date of the appointment. Inside the function, a new appointment object is created using the provided patient, doctor and date. Then second line, and the newly created appointment is then added to the appointments vector using appointments dot pushback appointment. And in summary, this function facilitates the creation and scheduling of appointments by adding them to the list of appointments in the hospital. Then we have this display appointments. This function is responsible for displaying the list of appointments in the hospital. It does so by iterating over the appointments vector using a constant iterator. For each appointment, it retrieves the appointment detail such as the date, patient name, and doctor's name. It then prints these details to the console, creating a formatted display of the appointments. This function, the function uses stdcout to output the appointment information, and this function is useful for providing overview of scheduling appointments in the hospital management system. Then we have this count available wards function. This function is responsible for calculating and returning the number of available free wards in the hospital. It does not take any parameters and is declared as a constant member function, meaning it does not modify the state of the object. Inside the function, two variables, total wards and reserved wards, are initialized to 0. These variables will be used to calculate the available wards. The function then iterates over the wards vector using a constant iterator, std ward constant iterator. For each ward in the vector, it updates the total wards and reserved wards variables by adding the corresponding values from the current ward. Finally, this function returns the difference between the total number of wards and the number of reserved wards. This result represents the number of available wards in the hospital, and this function provides a way to dynamically calculate the number of available wards in the hospital by considering the total and reserved ward. It can be used to obtain real-time information about the current state of ward availability. Then we have this function. This function is responsible for assigning a ward to a patient in the hospital. It takes a reference to a patient object like patient as a parameter, and the function modifies the patient's admission status and assign a ward number to them. The function starts by checking if the patient is already admitted, and if the patient is admitted, it displays the message like patient is already assigned to a ward and provides that the ward number. Then the function returns and no further action is taken. Then we have these find and available wards. If the patient is not admitted, the function enters a loop that iterates over the wards using a constant iterator, that ward iterator. It checks each ward to see if there is an available slot, IT reserved, IT total, and if an available ward is found, it increments the reserved count for that ward, updates the patient admission status, assign the ward number to the patient, and display a message indicating the successful assignment. If no available ward is found, then it displays a message stating that there are no available wards and the patient cannot be admitted. The function uses constant cost, talking about this line, constant cost, to remove the constant qualifier from the ward object, allowing it to modify the reserved count. The ward number assigned the patient is based on the reserved count of the selected ward. This function provides a mechanism for admitting patients to available wards in the hospital and managing the assignment process. It also handles scenarios where a patient is already admitted or when no available wards are present. Then I did not use this function. I want to add more functionality to my code, but I did not use this helper function in the any anywhere in my code. So we have the discharge patient from ward function. This function is responsible for discharging a patient from the ward in the hospital. It takes a reference to a patient object as a parameter, and the function modifies the patient's admission status, resets the ward number, and updates the ward reserved count. The function starts by checking if the patient is admitted. If the patient is admitted and has a valid ward number, it proceeds to discharge the patient. Inside the loop, function iterates over the wards using a non-constant iterator. Inside the loop, the function iterates over the ward using a non-constant iterator. It checks each ward to see if there are reserved slots. If reserved slots and if a ward with a reserved slot is found, it calls the discharge patient function of the ward to decrement the reserved count. It then updates the patient's admission status to false, display a message indicating the successful discharge, resets the patient's ward number, adds to 0 and returns from the function. If the patient is not admitted or has no valid ward number, it displays that patient is not admitted to any ward. And this function provides a mechanism for discharging patient from the hospital ward. It checks for admission status and ward number before attempting to discharge and ensures that the patient is not discharged. If they are not admitted or have an invalid ward number, the ward's reserved count is updated when a patient is discharged. Then we have the function of available doctors. This function displays a list of available doctors based on the specified shift and day. It takes two parameters, shift and day, and the function iterates over the vector of doctor using a constant iterator, this line. And for each doctor, it checks if the doctor's shift matches the specified shift, if doctor's shift equals to shift, and if the specified day is not found in the doctor's list of unavailable days. Then, if both conditions are met, the doctor is considered available and their information is printed on the console. Then we have the prescribe medicine function. It just prescribes the medicine to patient. This function simulates prescribing medicine to patient. It takes two parameter patient object, and the name of the prescribed medicine, and the function prints a message to the console indicating that the specified medicine is being prescribed to the given patient. These functions provide functionality related to doctor availability and prescribing medicine. The display available doctor function helps user to identify doctors available during a specific shift and day, and the prescribe medicine function is a simple simulation of prescribing medicine to a patient, providing feedback through console output. Then we have the last function, get ward information. This function in the hospital class provides information about the total, reserved and free wards in the hospital. Skipping through the wards, and the function uses an iterator to loop through each ward object in the wards vector. And this is a range-based loop that iterates over the vector of wards. The iterator it is initialized to the beginning of the vector, and the loop continues until it reaches the end of the vector, then displaying information. For each ward object, the function prints information about the total, reserved wards and free wards to the console. IT total retrieve the total number of wards in the current iteration. IT reserved retrieves the number of reserved ward in the current iteration, and IT get free wards invokes the get free wards function of the ward class to calculate and retrieve the number of free wards. The getWards info function is helpful utility for administrators or users who want to view the status of wards in terms of availability. It provides a breakdown of total reserved and free wards in the hospital. These are all the this is the hospital class that manages the doctor patient appointments and wards in a hospital, and these are all the member functions handle various operations such as registering doctor and patient, scheduling appointment, displaying information, etc. Then we have the main function. Int main. The main function serves as the entry point for the program. It creates an instance of the hospital class and runs a menu driven system based on user input. The program continues to execute until user chooses to exit. Then we have the do while loop. First we have the choice in int of type int, then we have the do while loop. Do while loop presents a menu to the users and performs action based on their choice. Choices include registering doctors and patients, scheduling appointments, displaying information, and more. Then, like individual cases in switch statement, like each case in the switch statement corresponds to a specific user choice. For example, case 1 register a doctor, case 2 register a patient, and so on. User inputs are collected and appropriate functions from the hospital class are called to perform the desired operation. Then user input for names, uh, specialties, shifts, theirs, etc. are collected using stdcn. Relevant information is then used to create instance of doctor, patient, or appointment and perform corresponding actions. Then output for output handling, we have the stdc out, and it is used for output displaying information such as registration, success, appointment, scheduling, available doctors. Then we have all of these cases in the switch statement, then end of the loop and return. So this code contains a few comments explaining specific section and logic. It implements basic functionalities of a hospital management system, including doctors, patient registration, appointment scheduling, and ward management. This code provide a basic structure. These codes provide a basic structures for a hospital management system, and feel free to ask if you have any specific question or if you would like more details on any part of the code. Thanks for watching, and the source code is available in the description of this video. Code is uploaded on GitHub and repository link is available in the description. So thanks for watching.